In the news tonight, Arab foreign ministers in a statement at an emergency meeting condemn attacks on Saudi diplomatic missions in Iran and call on Tehran to stop its policies that feed sectarian strife. Deliveries of humanitarian aid to 3 besieged Syrian cities suffering from starvation and with people dying of hunger is to be carried out tomorrow. And no one wins a record jackpot of $900 million in the United States Powerball lottery, driving the haul for a winning ticket in the next draw to $1.3 billion. Good evening and welcome to a new edition of the news. Here are the details. His Majesty King Abdullah begins a working trip to Washington tomorrow, where he will hold talks with U.S. administration officials on Jordanian-U.S. cooperation and the strategic partnership between the two countries. Also high on the agenda are the current regional and international developments. His Majesty is also scheduled to meet heads and members of congressional committees of both the House of Representatives and the Senate, as well as representatives of American, Arab, and Islamic organizations. Arab League foreign ministers in Cairo for an emergency meeting condemned the attacks on Saudi diplomatic missions in Iran and said the Iranian government has failed to protect the missions. In their closing statement, the ministers expressed full support to Saudi Arabia in its fight against terrorism. The League also condemned the reported discovery by Bahrain of a militant group, which it said was backed by Iran. The statement did not state any specific joint measures against Iran, but set up a committee to keep up discussions of the latest crisis and consult on possible future action. However, it called on Iran to stop its policies that feed sectarian strife and halt its support to armed militias. All members voted in favor of the statement, except Lebanon, which abstained. In Tehran, meanwhile, UN envoy Staffan de Mistura said the recent diplomatic row between Iran and Saudi Arabia will not affect the Syria peace talks slated to take place in Geneva later this month. As the United Nations works to bring together Syria's warring parties to Geneva on the 25th, de Mistura held talks with Iranian Foreign Minister Javad Zarif on the crisis. De Mistura told Zarif that he had obtained similar guarantees from Riyadh last week as part of his regional tour. De Mistura is shuttling around the region to prepare for the talks, part of a plan by the Security Council to end the near 5-year war in Syria. A UN resolution last month endorsed an international roadmap for a Syria peace process and gave UN blessing to a plan negotiated previously by world powers in Vienna. The Vienna plan calls for a ceasefire, talks between the Syrian government and opposition, and a 2-year timeline to create a unity government and hold elections. Humanitarian assistance to 3 besieged Syrian towns which are facing shortages of food and medical supplies will not arrive before tomorrow. A Red Cross official said the delivery operation will not start before tomorrow for logistical reasons. The UN announced a few days ago that the Syrian government was prepared to allow aid into Madaya, west of the capital Damascus, under siege since July. The town's residents are suffering from severe malnutrition. The 2 other villages, Afou'a and Kifraya, have been under siege since April. Since December 1st, 25 people died of starvation, the latest a 9-year-old boy who died yesterday.
قول والله العظيم.
والله العظيم.
جوعان كتير يا عمو؟ شو بتقول لسيدي مستورة؟ اني فوتنا اكل؟ يلا ان شاء الله يا رب يا رب. هلا شو مشتهي اكثر شي ساوي؟
In the latest airstrikes against Daesh, the U.S.-led coalition conducted 11 airstrikes against the group in Syria and 15 in Iraq yesterday, according to a statement issued today by the task force leading the operation. The strikes in Syria hit near Raqqa, Kamal, Manbij, Ain Isa, Deir ez-Zor, while 6 of the strikes in Iraq were near Ramadi, destroying weapons, fighting positions, and improvised explosive device. 3 Daesh members were injured in the strikes, according to the statement. Other strikes hit near Mosul, Kasik, Haditha, Al-Buhayat, and Habbaniyah. And back here at home, border guards on the northern frontiers ushered in an additional 140 Syrian refugees, men and women of different ages, in the last 72 hours. The security personnel provided them with needed relief aid and, in collaboration with the Royal Medical Services, offered medical attention to the sick or wounded before they were transferred to their respective shelters and camps. Following a fierce battle in Ramadi against Daesh, the terrorist group left the city, but streets and buildings were booby-trapped with bombs. 2 weeks after Iraq's elite counter-terrorism forces claimed victory against the group in Ramadi, efforts to rebuild the city are hampered by bombs on streets and in buildings in the city. The city remains off limits to its nearly 500,000 displaced residents, most of whom fled before the army advanced, and most areas are now under the security forces' control. Anbar Governor Suhaib al-Rawi says most of the streets in Ramadi are mined with explosives, which requires large efforts and expertise. According to Rawi, specialized bomb disposal teams from the police and civil defense force would begin work soon. Yemen's UN Special Envoy Ismail Wuld Sheikh Ahmed arrived in Sana'a after the government of President Abd Rabbu Mansour Hadi yesterday said that peace talks that were due on the 14th would be postponed. A Yemeni government spokesman said yesterday the announcement by former President Ali Abdullah Saleh that he would not take part in the talks and the lack of Houthi commitment to carry out their promises of releasing prisoners were amongst the reasons behind the push for postponement. A previous round of peace talks held in Switzerland last month failed to end the more than 9-month civil war in Yemen. Speaking to reporters in the Yemeni capital, Sheikh Ahmed said his visit aimed to prepare for upcoming talks and assured that the previous round did make progress.
Switzerland last month, and as far as we are concerned, made great progress, and we want to have another round. But as you know, a crisis like this, when it prolongs and spreads, the solution is more difficult. We have to carry out all preparations and not rush things so that we can ensure a radical solution, a sustainable solution, so that the Yemeni people can, God willing, live in security and prosperity, and this is our goal.
Egypt's first parliament in more than 3 years held its opening session today after a court dissolved the previous legislature. On its first day back, the House elected constitutional law professor Ali Abdel Al as parliament speaker. The House has 15 days to approve hundreds of laws issued by executive decree during the period when it was suspended. The last parliament was elected after the 2011 uprising that ended President Hosni Mubarak's 30-year rule and was dissolved in mid-2012 after a court ruling avoided the elections. The new parliament has 568 elected members, plus another 28 appointed directly by the president. Place de la République Square in Paris was lit up in the colors of the French flag to commemorate 1 year since the Charlie Hebdo attacks. Hundreds of people from around France and other countries trooped to the square for the event. Almost a year to the day, more than 1 million people marched in Paris, including world leaders, to protest the terror killings. President François Hollande and Paris Mayor Anne Hidalgo laid a wreath by the statue of Marianne, symbol of the French Republic in central Paris. The statue has become a shrine to the 17 victims of the January 2015 attacks. Hollande later met with the families of the victims on the square. The United States deployed a B-52 bomber on a low-level flight over South Korea in a show of force following North Korea's nuclear test last week. The massive B-52 based in Guam and capable of carrying nuclear weapons was flanked by 2 fighter planes in a low flight over Osan Air Base. Osan is south of Seoul and 77 kilometers from the demilitarized zone that separates the 2 Koreas. Meanwhile, the North Korean leader maintained that last week's test was of a hydrogen bomb, saying it was a self-defensive step against a U.S. threat of nuclear war. But the U.S. government and weapons experts say they doubt the device was a hydrogen bomb. The 2 Koreas remain in a technical state of war after their 1950 to 1953 conflict ended in a truce and not a peace treaty. Lottery officials in the United States said there was no winner of yesterday's record $900 million jackpot in the multi-state Powerball lottery. Millions of Americans anxiously checked their tickets for the winning combination of 6 numbers with a Powerball number of 13. The next drawing, expected to establish another record payout of a reported $1.3 billion, is slated for Wednesday. The grand prize for Powerball is played in 44 states, Washington, and 2 U.S. territories.
Here's Tom Rea from St. Louis, Missouri. Tom won $70 million playing Powerball. Next number down is 19. That's followed by 57. And we're going to wind it up for you tonight with the number 34. All right, now for your winning Powerball number. It is lucky 13 tonight, and that winning Power Play multiplier is 3. Take one more close look.
A Clásico between 2 of the great players of any generation is tomorrow. For the 7th time in 8 years, the dynamic duo of Barcelona's Lionel Messi and Real Madrid's Cristiano Ronaldo are set to go head-to-head for the title of world's best footballer. Tomorrow, the 2 men will fill the top 2 places on the FIFA Ballon d'Or podium in Zurich for the coveted accolade of being the year's leading men's player. Barca's Neymar is the other contender on the shortlist. Messi, who will now have been on the podium for an amazing 9 successive years, won 4 times in succession between 2009 and 2012. Ronaldo, on the other hand, has won 3 times, once when he was at Manchester United and the 2 most recent 2 editions at Real Madrid. The Ballon d'Or vote has been made by national team coaches, captains and leading journalists. Zinedine Zidane pleased Real Madrid fans as his side crushed Deportivo La Coruna 5-0 in the Frenchman's La Liga debut as coach. His triumphant start as Real coach set the Bernabeu buzzing, and the 10 times European champions are hoping the Zizou effect can return the world's richest club to winning ways. Gareth Bale scored a hat-trick and Karim Benzema added a double. Zizou, as he is known to his fans, was given a huge ovation when he walked out at the Giant Arena before kickoff, and his old number 5 shirt, put back on sale this week, was flying off the shelves at the club shop. The former Real and France midfielder looked elegant on the touchline, in contrast to the studious-looking Benitez. And finally, the weather outlook. Cold weather continues in most regions for the rest of tonight with southeasterly moderate winds. Freezing conditions will be affecting the kingdom as temperatures drop further in the late hours of the night. Light rain is also expected over the northern regions with southeasterly moderate to brisk winds. Tomorrow, a slight rise in temperature is in the forecast, but temperatures remain low in the hilly areas with fair weather prevailing in the Jordan Valley and the Dead Sea. The Gulf of Aqaba should expect relatively warm conditions with northerly moderate winds and calm seas. Here now to look at temperatures forecast for tonight and tomorrow. And to close, here's a reminder of the day's top stories. Arab foreign ministers in a statement at an emergency meeting condemn attacks on Saudi diplomatic missions in Iran and call on Tehran to stop its policies that feed sectarian strife. Deliveries of humanitarian aid to 3 besieged Syrian cities suffering from starvation amid people dying of hunger is to be carried out tomorrow. And no one wins a record jackpot of $900 million in the United States Powerball lottery, driving the haul for a winning ticket in the next draw to $1.3 billion. And with this, we come to the end of this edition of the news. I'm Ali Tuqan. Thank you for joining us and have a good night.